By the time I was 20, the bitterness was marrow deep. I still remember the day I collapsed. Sharp pain in my chest, shortness of breath. Turns out I had a congenital heart defect that required surgery, immediate, expensive, life-saving. I lay in that hospital bed, barely conscious, and heard them whispering outside the room.
"We can't afford this, Alan. We just paid for Brielle's engagement party and we're saving for her wedding gift."
He's strong. Maybe we wait, see if there's a free clinic option or something? They walked out of that hospital room. Not just out of the room, out on me. No consent, no surgery, no concern. Just quiet betrayal. They left their son bleeding and broken while saving every dime for Brielle's big day. They never saw me. I was there, in every family photo, tucked behind someone else, half a smile caught in the corner of the frame. But they never truly saw me. My name is Marcus Hale. I'm 35 now, a respected journalist, invited to speak on ethics and justice at global conferences. But to my parents, I was always just the other child. My sister, Brielle, was the sun charismatic from the time she could babble. She could do no wrong. And me? I was the shadow cast by her spotlight. I remember the earliest betrayal, like a scar I still feel when it rains.
"Look at this drawing Brielle made. Isn't she talented?"
I made one too, see? It's a lion fighting a snake. That's intense. Try drawing something prettier, Marcus. Birthdays? Hers were full-blown carnivals. Mine? A store-bought cake and a "we're really busy this week" excuse. When she failed math, they blamed the teacher. When I aced science, they said, "Good. Now do better next term." I got accepted into a summer writing program in New York. Only 10 students in the whole country got in. I was over the moon. "Mom, Dad, I got in. They want me to go to NYU this summer." "That's great, son, but we really don't have the money right now."
"Flights? Housing? It's just too much. Maybe next year?"
2 months later, Brielle turned 16 and got a brand new Honda Civic wrapped in a bow. By the time I was 20, the bitterness was marrow deep. I still remember the day I collapsed. Sharp pain in my chest, shortness of breath. Turns out I had a congenital heart defect that required surgery, immediate, expensive, life-saving. I lay in that hospital bed, barely conscious, and heard them whispering outside the room.
"We can't afford this, Alan. We just paid for Brielle's engagement party and we're saving for her wedding gift."
He's strong. Maybe we wait, see if there's a free clinic option or something? They walked out of that hospital room. Not just out of the room, out on me. No consent, no surgery, no concern. Just quiet betrayal. They left their son bleeding and broken while saving every dime for Brielle's big day. I was stabilized and left to deal with the pain and trauma on my own. Then, I posted online about needing money for my surgery. A charity organization stepped in, people who didn't even know me, and covered the cost of the surgery. They called, they checked in, they cared. My own parents didn't. Not once, not a call, not a message, nothing. Weeks later, I came home just to collect the last of my things. That's when it hit me like a second wound. The house was decorated. Laughter spilled from the kitchen. Boxes of expensive wedding gifts sat piled in the living room. New appliances, designer luggage, jewelry. A banner read, "Congratulations, Brielle," with balloons and ribbons dancing in the hallway. They were hosting a party, a celebration. While I had nearly died in a cold hospital bed alone, they were pouring champagne and planning flower arrangements. They didn't even notice me walk in. No one asked how I was doing. No one asked where I'd been. No one cared that I'd survived. That was the moment I realized the truth. I was never their priority. I was just the extra child they never wanted to budget for. I left home at 21 and never looked back. I worked 3 jobs, clawed my way through school, and started as an intern at a tiny investigative news site. I slept in the office, skipped meals, and lived on caffeine and anger. And slowly, I built a life fueled by the pain they gifted me, more permanent than any wedding gift in that living room. 10 years later, I was Marcus Hale, Peabody Award winner, best-selling author, guest speaker on BBC, CNN, and The Atlantic. The kid they ignored had become someone. And then, one Sunday morning, my phone rang. I stared at it for a long time before answering. "Hello?" "Marcus." Hey son, how are you? Busy. Why are you calling?
We need your help. It's Brielle. She's in trouble.
Trouble was an understatement. Brielle had spiraled over the years. Abusive marriage, then divorce, then pills, then worse. She'd gotten involved with some slick-talking hustler named Vince, who ran a fake crypto scheme. She fronted the whole thing on social media as an investment guru. Turns out, it was all a scam. $1.2 million gone. Clients demanding repayment, lawsuits looming. Vince disappeared. Brielle was left to answer for it. And now she was facing fraud charges.
Marcus, we've taken out a second mortgage, drained our savings, we hired a lawyer, but it's not enough. Please, help your sister.
It was poetic, really. The girl they spent everything on had taken everything from them. Their house, their retirement, their reputation. I could smell the desperation through the phone. I told them I'd think about it. I didn't. Instead, I thought about revenge. I flew down to visit them a week later, my first time home in over a decade. The house looked smaller, sadder, the paint peeling, the lawn neglected. The shrine to Brielle still dominated the living room. Old trophies, framed magazine covers, as if time had frozen in denial. When I walked in, they acted like I was royalty. Son, you look amazing. We're so proud of you.
I prayed every day that you'd come home.
Wish I could say the same. I offered to help, said I'd bring in my legal team, pull strings with some of my media friends. They were ecstatic. Tears, hugs. My name suddenly mattered. But it was all bait. I wasn't going to save Brielle. I was going to bury the entire illusion they'd built. My investigative team uncovered details about the crypto scam even the police hadn't found yet. Emails, hidden ledgers, Vince's real name. And the biggest twist? My parents were involved. Maybe not directly, but they had funneled money into the scam. Helped host events. Promoted it to friends at church. Ignorance? Maybe, but legally? Complicity. I sent the files anonymously to the district attorney. Then I published an exposé. Golden Daughter. How a family's obsession fueled one of the largest crypto scams in the state. My byline sat right under it. The fallout was glorious. The DA reopened the investigation. My parents were subpoenaed. The house was seized to repay defrauded investors. Their names were dragged through every news station from California to New York. The community that once praised them now shunned them. They called me. Every day. Begged, pleaded, cursed, threatened. I never answered. Then, one final voicemail from Dad. Marcus, they're talking jail time for your mother. We lost everything. Please, son. Just talk to me. I listened to that message while sipping wine on the balcony of my Manhattan penthouse. Somewhere across the country, the family that left me for dead was gasping for breath, drowning in the consequences of their golden child. And me? I was living, thriving, free. When people ask me why I became a journalist, I always say, to tell the truth. But part of me wanted the world to finally see what I saw. The cost of favoritism, the violence of indifference, the poison of unconditional love given to the wrong person. The court case dragged on for 6 more months. The evidence I submitted was airtight. Every lie, every dollar, every desperate move to protect Brielle was exposed. They'd always said they were trying to protect the family. Funny how that family shattered the moment the money ran dry. Brielle was sentenced to 8 years. Her sob story, drug addiction, manipulation, I was just in love, didn't move the jury. Not when they saw the videos of her flaunting cash on social media while elderly investors lost their life savings. My father got 3 years probation for financial complicity and obstruction. He was spared prison, but not shame. My mother wasn't so lucky. They uncovered falsified documents with her signature, wire fraud. She got 18 months behind bars. I never celebrated in public. That wasn't my style. But one cold November morning, I put on my best coat and walked into the county detention facility where my mother was being held. She looked tired, older, her silver hair disheveled. Her hands shook as she held the phone to her ear through the glass divider.
Marcus, thank you for coming. I know I've failed you, but I'm still your mother.
Wrong. You were her mother. I was just the kid who lived in your house.
We were just trying to keep the family together.
You kept Brielle together. You let me fall apart.
Please, can you help us get an appeal? I can't sleep in here. The lights, the noise.
I know. It's almost like being in a hospital bed waiting for surgery that your parents won't pay for. She burst into tears. I stood up. Next time you pray for forgiveness, make sure you use my name. I earned it. I visited her too. She'd lost the shine in her eyes. Her hair was a dull mess, and she looked 10 years older.
Was it you? The article, the files, the setup?
You already know.
You ruined us.
No, Brielle, you did that. I just wrote the headline. I left them both there. Mom behind bars, Brielle trapped in the walls she helped build, and Dad living alone in a tiny apartment, jobless, disgraced. As for Vince, the man behind the crypto scheme, the so-called genius investor who charmed my sister and convinced half the county to pour in their savings, he didn't disappear for long. One of my contacts at the Times tipped me off a few weeks after the sentencing. Vince had resurfaced in Singapore, using a different name, trying to launch another revolutionary tech fund. I reached out to some people I trusted in international journalism. A story ran in the Straits Times, and within days, a red notice was issued through Interpol. 2 weeks later, Vince was arrested at Changi Airport. The irony? He was wearing a $10,000 suit and carrying a forged passport with Brielle's last name. Still running, still faking it. But this time, no one was there to bail him out. He was extradited and now faces 25 years in federal prison for wire fraud, identity fraud, and international financial crimes. People say revenge is best served cold, but this was ice cold and slow brewed. Thanks for watching. I blinked. I can't. I'm disabled. Don't give me that. Out, now. Before I could explain further, he yanked open the door, undid my seatbelt, and tried to drag me out like I was a sack of rice. My legs tangled on the doorframe. I screamed. He thought I was resisting. He slammed me to the ground. My back hit the asphalt. My wheelchair was still folded in the back seat. Malik came out of the store screaming, "Dad, he can't move. What are you doing?" Halverton shoved him away with one arm. Then it got worse. He radioed in backup, claimed I was combative, said I had a concealed weapon, even though I didn't have anything but a water bottle and a parking placard. They zip-tied me, face down, on burning asphalt, in front of my child. They didn't see me as a man. Not the wheels, not the skin, not the name. To them, I was a problem in motion, a threat with a tan and titanium. But I'm going to tell you exactly how I turned humiliation into reckoning. How one mistake from a badge-wearing bully ripped open a system, and how my family made sure he never forgot what he did to me. It started on a Thursday. Hot day. Georgia sun baking every inch of my forehead through the windshield. I was parked outside a convenience store, waiting on my son Malik. 12 years old, hungry for tacos. I had my music on low, a jazz station. The car was off, keys on my lap. I hadn't moved an inch. But then the cruiser pulled up behind me. Lights on, siren off. That quiet kind of harassment. I didn't panic. This wasn't my first encounter. I just kept my hands visible. The officer stepped out. Stocky, white. Name tag read, R. Halverton. Already scowling like I owed him a debt. License and registration. I'm reaching for it, officer. Just so you know, I'm paralyzed from the waist down. Been that way since... Out of the car. I blinked. I can't. I'm disabled. Don't give me that. Out, now. Before I could explain further, he yanked open the door, undid my seatbelt, and tried to drag me out like I was a sack of rice. My legs tangled on the doorframe. I screamed. He thought I was resisting. He slammed me to the ground. My back hit the asphalt. My wheelchair was still folded in the back seat. Malik came out of the store screaming, "Dad, he can't move. What are you doing?" Halverton shoved him away with one arm. Then it got worse. He radioed in backup, claimed I was combative, said I had a concealed weapon, even though I didn't have anything but a water bottle and a parking placard. They zip-tied me, face down, on burning asphalt, in front of my child. I was released 3 hours later. No charges filed. They said it was a miscommunication. But bruises don't miscommunicate. Neither do tears from a 12-year-old boy watching his father be treated like roadkill. They gave me a clipboard, a cold apology, and suggested I file a complaint. They didn't know who I was. See, I wasn't just some man in a chair. I was a man with family. And my family didn't forget, especially not my daughter, Amara, civil rights attorney, sharp as a guillotine, and my brother, Judge Lennox Pierce, who just so happened to preside over cases in Fulton County's Internal Misconduct Division. The moment they saw the body cam footage, Amara's hands shook. Lennox's jaw clenched. We weren't going to file a complaint. We were going to make history.
Unlawful use of force, violation of ADA protocol, endangerment of a minor, false arrest, malicious conduct, excessive force on a disabled citizen.
Amara drafted it like a sniper setting up a shot. She looped in the ACLU, NAACP, Disabled Veterans of Georgia, media outlets, influencers. Halverton's name started trending before the subpoena even hit his mailbox. You know what poetic justice feels like? It feels like rolling into a courtroom and watching the same cop who slammed you to the pavement try to button his collar straight in front of a black judge. Your brother. Halverton looked confused, a little pale. He recognized me instantly. But he didn't know Lennox. Yet, let it be known that any attempts to deny federal disability rights will be treated with the full weight of the law. He didn't smile. He didn't wink. He just let the gavel drop like thunder. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, advocates, law students, veterans, wheelchair users in the front row. Halverton's defense tried to twist it. They said he was concerned for his safety, that my movements were suspicious, that the officer had reasonable fear. Amara stood. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize. She simply rolled the body cam footage. There I was, calm, cooperative, hands in plain sight, clearly saying, "I'm paralyzed. I can't move." And there he was, yanking, dragging, ignoring, pinning, zip-tying. Then she showed Malik, sobbing, shoved away like he was debris. Amara turned to the jury.
My father fought to walk again for 2 years. He uses a wheelchair because his spine was shattered in a construction collapse, ironically building a new police station. And this officer treated him like he didn't deserve breath, because he saw a black man and a parked car and made a decision. Not a mistake, a decision.
Halverton tried to plead stress, tried to cry. His lawyer said he'd faced personal trauma. But nobody was buying it. Not when Malik testified. Not when a bystander video went viral, showing the exact moment my body hit the pavement and my son screamed. Not when it came out that Halverton had 3 prior complaints for excessive force, 2 involving black teens, 1 involving a deaf man he pepper sprayed for ignoring commands. All cleared, all buried. But not this time. The ruling was unanimous. Liability for all charges. $2.3 million in damages. Termination from the force. Revocation of state peace officer certification. He was barred from working in law enforcement in any state, not even as mall security. His pension? Seized under federal civil rights penalty statutes. Amara made sure of it. I got emails from parents, veterans, disabled folks, strangers. Thank you for not staying silent. My daughter's in a chair. Your story gave her hope. We watched the hearing. My son cried. You're his hero now. You'd think losing his badge, his pension, and his name would be enough. It wasn't. Not for a man like Halverton, the kind who feeds on control like it's oxygen, who doesn't understand what it means when the air runs out. He thought the world would move on, but I didn't let it. See, I don't believe in revenge that ends with a gavel. I believe in a reckoning that echoes. Amara wasn't done either. She partnered with a civil rights documentary team to turn the footage, trial, and aftermath into a short film called Still Standing. It premiered at the Atlanta Black Film Festival and went viral again when the clip of Malik testifying hit TikTok. Over 3 million views. Under the comments, "This is the America they try to hide." That cop's face when the judge said, "Your brother." Priceless. The man couldn't walk, but he made the world move. Netflix offered a licensing deal. Amara made sure half the proceeds went toward free legal aid for disabled victims of police violence. Halverton's name was listed in the credits under former officer, proven guilty. Meanwhile, my brother Lennox quietly made a call to the state's POST council. He suggested Halverton's case be included in future ethics training. He didn't just become a cautionary tale, he became the textbook example. A year later, I got a call from a man named Rodney. He ran a private security firm in Savannah. Said Halverton applied using a fake name and falsified badge history. But Rodney's teenage daughter had seen Still standing in her civics class and recognized him. They called me, asked if I wanted to press charges for identity fraud. I didn't hesitate. We took him back to court. This time, he had a court-appointed attorney and a faded dress shirt that looked like it hadn't seen starch in a decade. The judge didn't even need deliberation. 6 months of jail time. $5,000 fine. Registered in the state misconduct database for life. But that's not the part that stuck with me. No, what stuck with me was what happened 2 weeks into his sentence. A local journalist interviewed inmates about accountability and rehabilitation. She asked Halverton if he felt remorse. You know what he said? They set me up. They ruined my life. I was just doing my job. The journalist forwarded me the raw footage. I watched it once. Then I called Amara.
Your Honor, given the defendant's repeated defiance of responsibility and his attempts to manipulate employers and falsify identification, we are requesting the court impose a permanent public record stamp, unfit for security, enforcement, or state-sanctioned service in any capacity.
The judge granted it. Now every time Halverton applies for anything remotely involving public trust, a school crossing guard, even a bus driver, the system pulls his record. Stamped, unfit. But karma doesn't always knock once. A few months later, a viral video started circulating. A middle-aged man in a diner off Highway 278, being thrown out by staff for yelling slurs at a young black waitress in a wheelchair. The man? Halverton. A bystander filmed the whole thing. It wasn't just embarrassment this time. It was national. News picked it up within the hour. Hashtags blew up again. Still standing. Wheelchair justice. Karma served hot. His wife got tired of him being in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons and filed for divorce. She won and left with their son. Just a few days later, Halverton was attacked by a group of kids who broke into his house. They beat him badly, spray-painted threats all over his living room, and told him they'd be back if he ever acted racist again. Now he lives in constant fear. I heard rumors he's planning to flee the state. Malik is now 13. He walks into class with his head high. Students recognize him from the film. He wrote a school essay titled, "The Day My Dad Couldn't Stand, but Still Fought Back." His teacher cried reading it. They asked me to come speak at his school. I did, and I brought my chair with pride. Thanks for watching. Working on? Chris, you don't work on anything. What's going on? Look, I got an offer to play overseas, okay? It's my chance, Sam. My big break. I stared at him, disbelief and anger bubbling inside me. Big break? Chris, you couldn't make the starting lineup in college. What makes you think you're good enough to go overseas? Chris waved me off, like my words didn't matter. You wouldn't understand. This is my dream. I can't let it pass me by. And what about Jamie? He's your son, Chris. Your responsibility. I'll send money. Mom and Dad can take care of him for now. Let me be. That was the last conversation I had with him before he disappeared. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My parents were in the kitchen, arguing and rifling through papers.
Samuel, have you seen my jewelry box?
No, why?
It's gone, and so is the cash we kept in the drawer.
It didn't take long to put the pieces together. Chris had cleaned us out. He took my parents' emergency savings, my rent money, and anything else he could find of value. By the time we realized what had happened, he was already on a plane.
How could he do this to us?
My mom cried. My dad was holding back his tears. I didn't know what to do. Chris left us with nothing but heartbreak and a child who didn't understand why his father wasn't there. My parents and I took turns caring for Jamie. Growing up, my brother Chris was the golden boy. Or at least, that's what he wanted everyone to believe. He had big dreams. the kind that made our parents puff their chests with pride when he talked about them at family gatherings. "I'm going to be the next big thing in basketball." He'd say things like that, gripping an imaginary ball and pretending to make a shot. "Just wait. NBA, here I come." The truth? Chris was, well, let's just say basketball wasn't exactly his calling. Sure, he was tall, taller than most of the kids at school. But coordination? Non-existent. He couldn't dribble a ball without tripping over his own feet, and his jump shot looked more like a kid flinging a rock at a tree than anything remotely professional. Still, Chris had a confidence about him that somehow convinced everyone else to believe in him. Everyone except me. I watched him blow through life like a reckless storm, leaving chaos in his wake. Chris didn't just want to be famous, he wanted shortcuts to fame. He skipped practices, lied about injuries, and sweet-talked coaches into giving him chances he didn't deserve. By the time he got to college on a partial scholarship, something that baffled me to this day, his reputation as an up-and-coming star was built on more lies than talent. That's where it all really started to fall apart. In his freshman year, Chris met Megan. Megan was the kind of person who made you wonder what she saw in Chris. She was bright, kind-hearted, and practical in a way that Chris never was. She was everything he wasn't. Responsible, hard-working, and smart. For a moment, I thought maybe she'd be the one to set him straight. Maybe she'd force him to grow up. But Chris had a way of dragging people down to his level. By the time their relationship got serious, Chris had already flunked most of his classes. He spent more time partying than studying, convinced he didn't need a degree because scouts will find me any day now. When Megan got pregnant, I thought that would finally shake some sense into him. He'd have to take responsibility, wouldn't he? I was wrong. Chris dropped out of college before the end of his sophomore year. He blamed everyone but himself. His professors, the coaches, even Megan. They don't see my potential. They're holding me back. Meanwhile, Megan stayed behind, working 2 jobs and taking summer classes to catch up. She was determined to give their baby a better future, even if Chris wasn't interested. By the time their son Jamie was born, Megan was exhausted. She'd worked herself to the bone, hoping Chris would step up. Megan didn't survive childbirth. A complication during delivery took her life, leaving baby Jamie without a mother and Chris with a responsibility he clearly wasn't ready to handle. I remember standing outside the hospital room, holding a squirming Jamie in my arms while Chris paced the hallway, running his hands through his hair. "I can't do this, Sam. I'm not ready to be a dad." I wanted to grab him by the shoulders, shake him, and scream at him to grow up, but I kept my voice steady. "Well, you better get ready. This kid didn't ask for any of this, Chris. He's your son." Chris didn't answer. He just kept pacing, mumbling to himself about how unfair life was. For a few weeks, he pretended to care. He'd hold Jamie for 5 minutes, snap a picture for social media, and then hand him back to our mom or me. He talked a big game about stepping up, but every time Jamie cried or needed a diaper change, Chris conveniently disappeared. Then came the day everything unraveled. Chris had been acting strange for a week. He avoided eye contact, mumbled vague excuses when anyone asked him questions, and spent a lot of time on his phone. One night, while I was cleaning up after dinner, I overheard him talking in the next room. "Yeah, man, I'm in. I'll be there as soon as I can. Just make sure the contract's ready." I walked into the room and asked what contract he was talking about. Chris jumped, his phone slipping from his hand. He scrambled to pick it up, avoiding my gaze. "It's nothing, just something I've been working on." "Working on?" "Chris, you don't work on anything. What's going on?" "Look, I got an offer to play overseas, okay? It's my chance, Sam. My big break." I stared at him, disbelief and anger bubbling inside me. Big break? "Chris, you couldn't make the starting lineup in college. What makes you think you're good enough to go overseas?" Chris waved me off, like my words didn't matter. "You wouldn't understand. This is my dream. I can't let it pass me by. And what about Jamie? He's your son, Chris. Your responsibility. I'll send money. Mom and Dad can take care of him for now. Let me be." That was the last conversation I had with him before he disappeared. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My parents were in the kitchen, arguing and rifling through papers.
Samuel, have you seen my jewelry box?
"No, why?"
It's gone. And so is the cash we kept in the drawer.
It didn't take long to put the pieces together. Chris had cleaned us out. He took my parents' emergency savings, my rent money, and anything else he could find of value. By the time we realized what had happened, he was already on a plane.
How could he do this to us?
My mom cried. My dad was holding back his tears. I didn't know what to do. Chris left us with nothing but heartbreak and a child who didn't understand why his father wasn't there. My parents and I took turns caring for Jamie, struggling to make ends meet while Chris chased his delusional dreams. Months later, I tracked down the so-called team he'd joined. It wasn't a professional league. It was a group of washed-up players doing exhibition games for scraps. Chris wasn't a star. He was a joke. And yet, he never came home. He never called. He never even sent a single dollar for his son. Jamie grew up without a father, and I grew up resenting the brother I'd once admired. Chris abandoned his family, chasing a dream that was never real. And in the process, he left behind the only thing that could have given his life true meaning. But maybe that was for the best, because Jamie deserved better than Chris ever could have been. It took time, but a year after Chris left, I managed to land a stable job. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well enough to help my parents and give Jamie a semblance of stability. Our lives slowly pieced themselves back together, and as the months turned to years, I found myself falling into the role Chris had abandoned. By the time Jamie turned 3, I officially adopted him. The process was long and draining, but there was no hesitation in my heart. He was my son now, in every way that mattered. He grew up knowing about Chris, but to Jamie, I was his father. The bond we formed was unshakable, and I couldn't have been prouder to watch him grow into a bright boy. Life moved on without Chris, and honestly, we were better for it. My job allowed me to buy a new house for my parents, Jamie and me. It wasn't a mansion, but it was ours, and it was very comfortable. For 12 years, Chris was nothing more than a distant memory, a shadow of the past we had long since left behind. And then, one day, the shadow came back. Chris returned looking nothing like the man who had strutted out of our lives with so much arrogance. He was thin, almost skeletal, with ragged clothes and sunken eyes. His hair was unkempt, and the stupid grin he used to wear was gone. Still, even in his tattered state, he clung to the pride that had always been his downfall. "Samuel, it's me." He thought I didn't recognize him, since I couldn't stop staring at him. "What do you want, Chris? You're clearly not needed in our lives anymore after what you did." "I'm not here to be in your lives. I just came to take back what's mine." It took me a second to realize he was talking about Jamie. "He's my son, Samuel. You've got no right to keep him from me." Before I could respond, Jamie walked out of the house. He was 15 now, tall and confident, with a sharp tongue he wasn't afraid to use. He looked Chris up and down, his expression filled with disgust. There was no doubt that he'd heard our conversation. "You think you can just show up after all these years and call yourself my father? I'm your dad, kid. Blood doesn't lie." "Blood? You mean the blood you left me and my mom to die for? The blood that ran when you abandoned us for a career you were too talentless to handle? You're not my dad. You're just some loser who couldn't even make it in life. Samuel is my dad. He's the one who raised me, who stayed. You? You're nothing but garbage." The words hit Chris like a slap, but instead of admitting his failure, he held his pride. "I can see they've managed to poison your heart. I'm still your father. You'll see. The law's on my side." He stormed off. It didn't take long for him to return with the police. He stood outside our house, pointing an accusing finger as the officers approached. "He kidnapped my son. That's my child in there." I laughed at him before handing the officers every document proving my legal guardianship over Jamie. The adoption papers, court orders, everything. This idiot abandoned Jamie 15 years ago. He never called to speak to him, nor did he ever send money. For 15 years, I've taken care of Jamie. My dad's not lying. This man left me. I don't want him near us. Samuel is my father. He always will be. My parents also spoke, telling the cops how Chris had run away, leaving us all in debts. The officers turned to Chris. "Mr. Chris, do you have any proof to support your claim?" Chris stammered, his bravado crumbling under their scrutiny. I don't, but he's a thief. I just want my child." "You're too broke to take care of yourself, not to talk of a child." One officer shook his head. "Wasting our time with baseless accusations. You should be ashamed." They dismissed the case, praising me for stepping up as Jamie's father and warning Chris not to return. But Chris wasn't finished. That night, he tried sneaking into the house. Armed with a knife, he scaled the fence, clearly intent on something sinister. But luck wasn't on his side. He slipped on the wet metal, falling hard onto the concrete below. The loud crash woke the entire household. When we rushed outside, we found Chris writhing on the ground, his ankles twisted at unnatural angles.
Oh my God, Chris.
Her shock quickly turned to disappointment as she saw the way he was dressed and a knife and ropes lying beside him. It was so clear that he came to hurt us. We called the police again, and they arrived to arrest him for attempted burglary. "This is serious. You're looking at jail time." Chris tried to protest, but there was no sympathy left for him. He was sentenced to 2 years in jail, with a fine he couldn't afford. His injuries from the fall were left untreated for too long, and by the time the prison doctors got to him, it was too late. His legs had to be amputated below the knees. When he finally got out, we were long gone. My job had taken us to a different country, far from the mess Chris had brought into our lives. He was left alone, crawling through the streets, begging for scraps. No one wanted to hire a crippled ex-convict, and the pride he had once clung to was nowhere to be found. He ended up washing people's cars for a few dollars, and sometimes mow people's lawns. He tried severally reaching us, but we all blocked his number. Chris had spent his life chasing a dream that never existed, and in the end, he was left with nothing. Nothing but regret and the cold, hard truth that he'd thrown away everything that could have mattered. While in school, Jamie was so talented at soccer that a famous team signed him. A few years later, he became a superstar, earning thousands of dollars a week. He ended up buying everyone a house, and we became incredibly rich. Despite his busy schedule, traveling the world and playing for his team, he always made time to call me and his grandparents. We later heard that when Chris found out about his son and watched him play, he collapsed and went into a coma for several days. Fortunately, he didn't die. Perhaps God kept him alive to languish in regret for abandoning his son. Jamie never sent Chris a dime, nor did he ever respond to the letters and emails Chris sent him. Thanks for watching. Before I could explain, he punched me, knocking me to the ground. The impact was jarring, and I felt a sharp pain shoot through my jaw. Before I knew what was happening, he handcuffed me, and as I tried to catch my breath, a seizure hit. I was helpless, but Bender just laughed. I convulsed on the ground for minutes and hurt myself as I did. When it finally stopped, I was dizzy and in rough shape, and I pleaded with Officer Bender to see reason. "Please, I didn't do anything. Check the cameras. You'll see." "Yeah, I'll bet. Don't worry. I called for backup, and when they arrive, we'll take you downtown and process you, and your dog will be brought to the pound where he'll be put down." Backup arrived, and they stuffed Tanner into a small crate while I was thrown into a police car. As we drove to the station, I begged the officers to review the restaurant's security footage. They were reluctant to listen to me, but they also knew that they needed to perform a full investigation. I never thought that my life would revolve around so much drama at a coffee shop of all places. I mean, I've always felt safe and comfortable going to them anywhere in the world, but here I am, and boy, do I have a crazy story to share. My name is Alvin, and my service dog Tanner is my constant companion. Tanner isn't just a dog, he's my lifeline. He helps me manage my epilepsy, alerting me before seizures, and ensuring I'm safe when they happen. Thankfully, I have always been good with computers, and I managed to find a job as a cybersecurity specialist. Working remotely means I can work from anywhere, and my favorite spot has always been a cozy coffee shop downtown. The coffee is great, it's close to a lovely park, and the food is die for. However, nothing ever stays the same, and one day, we were surprised when we showed up for usual morning routine. We saw an odd sign in the window that said it was under new ownership. The shop had been sold to a new owner, Ryan, who from the moment he walked out of the back room and into the main shop area, well, he seemed to have a chip on his shoulder. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it was very obvious that he had a strong disdain for animals. "Hey you, yeah, you with the dog, you can't bring that mud in here anymore." "Excuse me? Hold on, he isn't just some random animal. Tanner is a service dog. He's allowed to be wherever I am." "I don't care what kind of dog he is. No animals in my shop. Now get that smelly beast out of here. I was taken aback by his hostility. I tried to explain Tanner's role, and I even tried to show him the paperwork I carried with me, stating that Tanner had the legal right to be there, but Ryan wasn't having it. To my surprise, he called the police. It was annoying, but I figured that once the police showed up that I could show them my paperwork and everything would be sorted out. But things only ended up getting worse. When Officer Bender arrived, I felt a sliver of hope. He had a police dog with him. Surely he'd understand. But that hope was quickly dashed. Look, you need to leave. If you don't, I'll have my dog take care of yours. Permanently, if you catch my drift. On top of that, if you're not out of here in the next minute, you'll be under arrest, and your dog will be put down. But officer, we have a legal right to be here, and Tanner isn't hurting anyone. I didn't stutter, buddy. Just leave before I order my dog to rip your dog to pieces. Your choice. Fear gripped me as I left the shop, Tanner by my side. I felt humiliated and powerless. I had never been so mistreated before. In the whole 5 years that I had Tanner, I had never encountered people like Ryan and Bender. Sure, there were some people that gave me grief for Tanner being with me, but once they understood that he was a service dog, they usually stopped and apologized. Instead, both of them were so incredibly hostile. The next day, I was determined not to let Ryan's prejudice control my life. I decided to work from the restaurant next door. I figured it was a safer option, but I was wrong. Ryan somehow spotted me and stormed over, his face red with anger. What did I tell you about coming around here with that dog? Leave, or I swear I'll make you regret it. Ryan, I'm not even in your shop. You can't force me to leave this restaurant. They have already told me that it's okay that he is in here. And why do you hate Tanner so much? He's a service dog, not a pet. I hate all dogs. One attacked me as a kid. They smell, they shed, and they're loud. Just get out. I'm good friends with the owner of this restaurant, and he'll take my side if I tell him that your dog is violent. I tried to reason with him, promising to leave once my food arrived and take it with me to go. Ryan begrudgingly left, but not without a final threat. Once he was gone, I changed my mind and decided to stay and eat there. As I ate, I noticed Officer Bender and his dog partner walking by. He saw me and made a beeline for my table. You again? I thought I told you to stay away. Just because this isn't the same shop as yesterday doesn't change a thing. Please, officer, I'm just trying to work. Tanner is a service dog. This is my right. He sneered, enjoying his power trip. His presence made my heart race, but I tried to remain calm. Meanwhile, Ryan was up to something. I saw him sneaking around. He entered the restaurant again, and I braced myself for a shouting match, but he just skulked around while I arguing with Officer Bender. I later found out that while I was speaking with Bender, that Ryan was placing a stake on the ground near Tanner. Thankfully, Tanner is very well trained, and he ignored it, but Bender's police dog wasn't as disciplined. The dog rushed over and ate the steak, convulsing moments later before collapsing. I then realized that Ryan had poisoned the steak and had intended for Tanner to eat it, but had inadvertently seriously hurt the police dog. Oh no! Someone call a vet quickly. What happened? What did you do to my dog? You did this. You're going to pay. Before I could explain, he punched me, knocking me to the ground. The impact was jarring, and I felt a sharp pain shoot through my jaw. Before I knew what was happening, he handcuffed me, and as I tried to catch my breath, a seizure hit. I was helpless, but Bender just laughed. I convulsed on the ground for minutes and hurt myself as I did. When it finally stopped, I was dizzy and in rough shape, and I pleaded with Officer Bender to see reason. Please, I didn't do anything. Check the cameras. You'll see. Yeah, I'll bet. Don't worry. I called for backup, and when they arrive, we'll take you downtown and process you, and your dog will be brought to the pound where he'll be put down. Backup arrived, and they stuffed Tanner into a small crate while I was thrown into a police car. As we drove to the station, I begged the officers to review the restaurant's security footage. They were reluctant to listen to me, but they also knew that they needed to perform a full investigation, and so thankfully, they watched the footage. Hours later, I was released. The footage clearly showed Ryan sneaking up behind me and planting the steak on the ground, giggling the whole time. It was plain as day that I had nothing to do with the poisoned steak. Once I was released, I went straight to a lawyer and told them everything that had happened. He told me that I had a very good case and that he could guarantee me results. My wrongful arrest led to a lawsuit, and I was awarded a substantial settlement, and Bender was fired and sentenced to prison for his actions. He didn't end up being in prison for more than a year, but it was something at least. Ryan, however, wasn't so lucky. His attempt to harm Tanner backfired, and he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the death of a police dog, who was considered a police officer just as much as any human. In the aftermath, I struggled to process everything. Tanner stayed by my side, his calm presence a comfort during the turbulent days. The coffee shop was sold again, and the new owner took it in a completely different direction. It became a cat cafe. And of course, service animals were welcome so long as they got along well with cats. And Tanner, being a very good boy, loved visiting the cats. Despite the trauma, we found happiness again, and for that, I'm forever grateful. With Tanner by my side, I know we can face anything. Our journey has been difficult, but it has taught me the value of resilience and the importance of standing up for what's right. Together, we've moved forward, stronger than ever. The first few days after the incident were a blur of legal consultations and media attention. Tanner and I became the center of a heated debate about the rights of service animals. Advocacy groups reached out, offering support and sharing similar stories of discrimination. It was overwhelming, but I knew this was bigger than just Tanner and me. One night, as I sat at home with Tanner curled up at my feet, I received a call from an old friend, Emma, who worked as a journalist. She had seen the news and wanted to write a feature about our experience. We talked for hours, and for the first time, I felt like our story could make a difference.
Alvin, people need to hear this. It's not just about raising awareness, it's about creating change. Are you ready for that?
I think so, Emma. If our story can help even one person, it's worth it. The article was published a week later, and the response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from across the country, people sharing their own experiences, offering support, and thanking us for speaking out. It was both heartwarming and humbling. I also think it helped bring attention to our case and possibly helped to prevent Officer Bender from getting just a slap on the wrist. Meanwhile, the legal proceedings against Officer Bender and Ryan continued. The courtroom was tense as evidence was presented, showing the clear discrimination and abuse of power. The judge didn't hold back in his sentencing, emphasizing the severity of their actions. The justice system had worked in our favor, but the journey had taken its toll. I was determined to use this experience to advocate for better training and awareness about service animals. After 1 year, when Officer Bender was released, he couldn't get any proper job because people had posted pictures of him online, exposing how cruel he was to both dogs and humans when he was a police officer. Employers were afraid of getting a bad reputation by hiring him, so he ended up working as a security guard at a small restaurant. Even though I was compensated, I still wanted my own revenge. I tracked Officer Bender to where he worked and hired 2 guys to kidnap him. We locked him in a basement with 3 different dogs for 3 days and made him eat from the same dish as the dogs. When the guys finally released him, he had to skip town that same night. Serves him right. The cat cafe became our sanctuary. Tanner quickly became a favorite among the patrons, especially the cats, who seemed to enjoy his gentle nature. Life slowly returned to normal, but the lessons we learned stayed with us. Thanks for watching. By the time I was 8, my parents decided to sell me off. They couldn't stand me anymore and couldn't afford my glasses. They hated me because I was an albino. I can't take care of you anymore. I'm going to find someone who wants you. But I doubt anyone in their sane minds would want a disabled child.
I feel like a failure for having you. I would have been fine with just your brother. If you dare go blind before we find a buyer for you, I'll kill you with my own hands.
Those words hurt like hell. Even though they'd been repeatedly calling me a disabled, it hurt every time. I believed I was. I mean, I didn't attend school, and I wasn't allowed to have friends. I was born with albinism and lazy eyes, and my parents absolutely hated it. My name is James, and I had a twin, Gabby. My parents weren't rich, neither were they poor. I would say we lived as average people. Before my twin and I were born, my parents had just gotten new jobs. They were newlyweds and surely weren't ready for kids. Well, my mom got pregnant and didn't have the courage to abort it, so they decided to have us. My mom was forced to quit her job during the 4th month of being pregnant. The doctor had advised her against doing anything stressful. It was also getting hard to do things at the factory where she worked, so quitting was a good idea. Everything fell on my dad. His job paid quite well, and that helped. My mom didn't want to sit idly at home, so she began a business online where she helped people advertise their products. It wasn't so profitable, but it helped a little. We stayed longer than normal in her womb. We came out when she was 10 months pregnant. I came out as an albino with lazy eyes, which scared my parents.
What's wrong with him? I don't want a disabled child. Albinism isn't a disability, sir. The lazy eyes is just a feature that sometimes comes with albinism. He's a healthy and normal child.
You're just saying that to comfort us, doctor. He's disabled. Gosh, I can't believe our misfortune.
The favoritism began from then. My brother had the best glassy skin and normal eyes. His hair was full too, unlike mine. Of course, my parents loved him. My parents refused to take me out with them. They were ashamed of me. Whenever they needed to leave home, they would go individually, so one person had to stay with me. It only made them angrier. When my mom eventually got a job, they began to leave me at home with my grandmother. But my grandmother was just like them. If she needed to go somewhere, she would take Gabby with her and leave me at home. On our 4th birthday, my parents made me wear clothes that covered nearly all of my skin, leaving only my head uncovered. They covered my hair with a huge cap and often covered my eyes when they were talking to people. On the 5th birthday, they found the perfect way to cover me up, which was by dressing me up as Spider-Man. On our 6th birthday, my parents locked me in a room and lied to everyone that I had chickenpox. Only my brother celebrated with friends they invited. That was the last time we celebrated a birthday because my parents ran out of lies. My eyes got worse by the time I was 7, and I needed glasses. My brother went to a normal school, but I was left to stay at home. When my brother returned from school, he would teach me what he was taught. But Gabby wasn't so brilliant, so I was often confused about the things he taught me. My dad soon got fired from work when he got caught stealing with a group of other employees. He had to pay a fine with all of his and my mother's savings to avoid being jailed. We had to rely on my mom's meager salary. It went like that for 2 whole months before my mom lost her cool. She was tired of feeding us alone. They began to argue a lot and often transferred their anger to me. My dad would slap me and call me bad luck. As for my mom, she developed the habit of spitting on me whenever she was angry. It was so disgusting because I hated dirt. She knew that. So whenever she spat on me, she would make me sit without washing until her anger melted off. By the time I was 8, my parents decided to sell me off. They couldn't stand me anymore and couldn't afford my glasses. They hated me because I was an albino.
I can't take care of you anymore. I'm going to find someone who wants you. But I doubt anyone in their sane minds would want a disabled child.
I feel like a failure for having you. I would have been fine with just your brother. If you dare go blind before we find a buyer for you, I'll kill you with my own hands.
Those words hurt like hell. Even though they'd been repeatedly calling me a disabled, it hurt every time. I believed I was. I mean, I didn't attend school, and I wasn't allowed to have friends. Luckily for me, my parents found a couple who were desperate for a child. They took me with them to the agency, and the couple immediately showed their likeness for me. It was strange, because I'd never received love. Well, my parents sold off their rights over me and left without even glancing at me. I felt bad for the couple. Why did you buy me, sir and ma? I'm a disabled child, and all I'm going to do is give you problems. My parents always say I brought them bad luck and misfortune. I don't want to give you bad luck. I saw their eyes water, and I broke out in a sob. I felt like I'd made them sad with my misfortune. Surprisingly, they pulled me toward themselves and engulfed me in a hug. It was the first time I'd received a hug, and I was insanely shocked at the sudden love. Their warmth calmed me down.
We're going to love you, son. Those people do not deserve you. We're your new parents, and we will shower you with all of the love we have.
You're not disabled. Albinism is beauty, not a disability. You're a handsome child. Don't ever forget that. Always tell yourself that you're not disabled, okay?
I instantly felt comfortable with them. My new parents kept to their promise. I was showered with so much love that I often burst into tears at how loved I was. They were wealthy and gladly showed me off to everyone. Their families loved me too. They all treated me like a precious egg. They got my eyes treated so that I wouldn't need glasses. They bought me the best clothes. I attended a great school where I finally made friends who strangely loved my look. Slowly, I began to accept that I wasn't bad luck, I wasn't ugly, and my albinism and lazy eyes weren't disabilities. I repaid my new parents by studying hard, at school, and never failing to top my class. I also behaved properly to everyone, which only brought me more love. My parents were always so proud of me. By the time I entered college, I already understood the family business and even helped to solve a situation once. My dad was so impressed and got me my first car as a reward. I completely forgot about my biological parents because I was so happy with the people they sold me off to. I worked even harder and emerged as the best graduating student. It was all over the news, as my dad was a popular businessman and my school was also well known. The day after my graduation, I got so many gifts and congratulations from people, including those who I had no idea of who they were. 1 month later, I resumed work at my dad's company as the vice president. I was already good at the business and ready to be the president, but my dad wasn't ready to step down yet. According to him, he wasn't ready to start sitting idly at home. Once I began working at the company, things changed even better. Our stocks went higher as a result of the new techniques I brought in, making my dad even more impressed. I began attending meetings with him as his successor. My face was always in the media with every milestone our company reached. I'd long gotten rid of my insecurity as an albino, so when I saw a few people on the internet talking about it, I ignored them. 90% loved me and didn't care about it, and that was all that mattered to me. Things went smoothly for the first year, and our company became the second richest in the business industry. I'd also risen to the top 5 richest youngest businessmen, occupying the 3rd spot. I was only 24. My dad boasted about me everywhere, and my mom had to deal with rejecting proposals of the countless rich women who wanted to get married to me. I wasn't ready for marriage yet. At least, not until I was 27. I was in the middle of a meeting one day when I was told that I had visitors who were begging to see me. It wasn't the first time that had happened. Oftentimes, people would come to ask for jobs or beg for money, and if they were qualified, I would find a place to put them in. Those who weren't, I'd simply give them money. I asked the security to bring them to my office and entertain them until I was done with the meeting. It wasn't until the next 30 minutes before it finally ended, and I went to my office. Once I walked in and saw the visitors, I recognized them. They were my biological parents and Gabby. I acted neutral and took my seat opposite them. All 3 of them instantly went on their knees.
Forgive us, James. We regret what we did to you, son. We're suffering a lot. It's so hard for us to feed. Your brother hasn't been able to get a job since he finished high school. Help us, please.
I need to undergo surgery too, James. I have cancer. I'm going to die if it's not treated sooner.
We were so happy to see you in the news. We knew our problems would be sorted once we saw you. I nearly burst into laughter, but I held it in. I'm sorry, but I have no idea of who you 3 are. You see, I lost all of my childhood memories. But you seem like you need help, so I'll help you. Please don't return here after I do.
We won't. We won't ever show our faces to you again. Just give us money, okay? I knew you would help us.
Even though I'd lied about losing my memories, seeing how they didn't care about it after I told them made me feel sad. It meant that they still didn't give a damn about me. I asked my bodyguard to bring me 3 bags of money from a special room. I saw how my biological family beamed with joy when I said that, but I kept a straight face. When the bags of money were given to them, I issued a stern warning. I don't like to see people I helped twice. If you ever show your faces to me again, I'm going to call the cops on you.
You don't have to worry about that. This money matters to us more. You'll never see us again.
I'm going to invest wisely and be as rich as you. Then we can compete as rivals. Thank you so much. Rivals? I nearly laughed. I watched as they left my office. From my window, I saw them dancing once they got out of the gates. Their happiness was surely going to be switched to sadness soon. Oh, the money? They were all fake. You see, sometimes people try to make deals with us using fake money, but we always catch them and hand them over to the cops. As for the money, they were always kept in bags in a special room. I didn't want to punish my family directly. They'll receive their punishments when they get to the bank and get caught trying to deposit fake money. 2 days later, I was watching the news when I saw my biological parents and brother in police custody. Apparently, the bank had arrested them when they went to deposit the money. The bank called the police, and when they arrived, my dad tried to resist and was beaten to a pulp. They were sentenced to 4 years in jail each. With their cancer, I doubt they will survive the 4 years. Serves them right. Few months later, I got a mail from them how I should visit them, but I never did. Instead, I got married, had a son, and will often send them pictures of my new houses, cars, and my family, but I never reply to their mails from prison. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our best to reply to your comment.